pursuant to the governor's emergency order, we have determined that it is unwise to have this meeting in person. So we're having a meeting by electronic means. We are complying with the moratorium or the governor's order, and we're having a meeting recorded as well. People from the public are welcome to sign in, zoom in, and they've been given the numbers and published. So we'll call a meeting to order. And first order of business is roll call.
Roger,
Yes.
Dr. Levin, Jay Levin, Mina Hall, Mike Elliott,
I'm here.
Erwin,
I'm here.
and I'm here.
I suspect that Nina will roll in at some point, but
I'm here. Sorry, I just couldn't unmute fast enough. I'm trying to. I'm in a hotel
good.
lobby. So I'm
Hi,
trying
Mina.
to figure this
Good.
out. Hi.
all right. So somebody help me out because I don't have the agenda in front of me. We had 3 quick items of business. We were going to try and blast through them, so to speak, so we could spend time with the new city manager. So I know one of the things was the popcorn interview.
Yeah, why don't we start with that, Roger? Because the
Yeah.
first one is the joint meeting. You know, we talked to Greg about that too. But
Yes.
how'd you do it video? You know, we did have a very nice interview with Eric, the owner of the Signature Popcorn. And I thought it went very well.
It was fun. It was fun, and Denise has the video, and actually the popcorn guy got a copy of the video, and so everybody went away with something from the day. And now we need to find somebody new to talk to.
Yeah, I
So-
thought,
And I'll try to edit that and put it in the same, try to find a sound bite. I haven't had a chance, I don't know if it's up for everybody to see, but I'll try to edit it and put it in the same format as our other little sound bites.
I uploaded it to the EDC Google Docs.
Great, I'll
So
look right there.
that's all right. Good. So next item on the agenda, what is it?
compile list of brokers or developers.
I think that's a work in progress. Does anybody have anything to add to it this morning other than we're working on it?
Yeah,
Well,
well, I think Pam did a lot of work on it already, and I think what we're waiting for is waiting for
What we can do with it?
permission. Yeah, what we do, how we approach it, what we do, and maybe, you know, my thought was integrate that with our social media program, because we could hit developers with that. So that was my thought on that.
I
know
agree.
Mike's been good with that.
I agree with you, Erwin. I think, you know, Mike, you know, you had a good idea about interfacing, you know, that list, that database of brokers and developers with social media. LinkedIn is, I think, a perfect tool for this. And we could just, we talked about publicizing the TIF and other market information. And, you know, I think LinkedIn is a good tool. Now, I don't know, where does that stand, Jenny?
We did discuss it in the meeting. Was it last week? I can't remember which week we had our meeting. And actually Greg and Mike Elliott, we're gonna reach out and talk to each other. I'm hoping to hear more from either of them, but there's definitely an interest. I think the one hesitation is from the board is content and management of the LinkedIn. So that was something that Greg and Mike were gonna discuss.
I'm sorry, this is Greg. Mike and I connected on email. We haven't connected in person. I hope to do that within this next week.
Great.
Yeah, because I know you had some thoughts, Mike, about content and how we could kind of, you know, stream what what we're doing, with the festivals and other opportunities in Long Grove, with LinkedIn. And we also talked about Vicarious working with you on that.
Yeah, we'd have to run it through Vicarious. It's because they do all of our social media and it would kind of make sense. But I think it's one thing if we're parsing out things from other things that we're putting out, like you had suggested, Mike, breaking out the articles and sending them out. But if we're going to do business specific and new content, who's going to develop that? How's it going to get cleared? And, so I think that was I know it.
Well, we have one trustee who
curated.
We have one trustee who is heavily involved in publicity, and my ear said that she wanted to see this stuff before anyone went anywhere. I'm not sure why, but and then Trustee Borowski was concerned about the cost because he had experience buying very finely tuned mailing lists and said that can run up big bills. And my recollection is that he was assured that that was not this ambitious at this time.
Yeah, I don't know that we're at the point where we're going to buy lists like Coke to distribute.
Yeah.
Just trying to send out the message to a different audience, which we already have a lot of contacts for, I believe.
Right. So, I guess we were thinking that maybe, Vicarious could help us use these lists that we've already developed, local developers and brokers and, and kind of work with that in addition to the contacts people already have. And just work
Sorry
through.
about that, I disconnected.
So
I don't envision us buying very elaborate lists, to use for social media. I think between what we've already developed and what people have, I think we probably can work with that.
So I think the next step is let's have Greg and Mike meet, kind of discuss it, and then maybe circle back at the next meeting.
That sounds good.
Yes. What else? I don't think there's anything on the agenda then after that. There is there.
Just the resident survey.
Oh, yeah.
Did that get sent to everybody? I know I sent it to you, but I don't think it got uploaded to the EDC. I don't know if we want to talk about it right now, I could share my screen and we could go through it.
What's a nice, my resume is just a nice straightforward survey. It certainly will gather valuable information that, is, you don't know how valuable it's going to be because you don't know what the response is going to be. You may get a typical response, and that would skew things, but it's a start. And it's a way to say, the villager's thinking about you and what you want.
Yeah, I didn't catch your last statement. I don't know. I'm getting, my internet is unstable, so if I die, sorry. So why don't I throw it up and we can just go through. I'd love to get it out to the board for their approval, but I think we should discuss it. Does that sound okay?
Great, great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Let's see if I've never done this before. So here we go. Everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so Anne did an amazing job on this. She just whipped it out like in very quickly. And you're on the board. Yeah, you're on the call, correct? Thought I saw
Yep,
you.
on mute.
So I'm just going to scroll through these. Maybe I should read them out loud for people that are on. So
Yeah,
the first is, do any children 17 or under live in your household? Yes or no? Are you or any other member of your household age 65 or older? How long, or that's a yes and no question, obviously. How long have you lived in Long Grove? And it's broken out into 0 to 3 years, 4 to 6 years, 7 to 10 years, over 10 years, or I don't live in Long Grove. Why did you move to Long Grove? Choose all that apply. Open space, large lots, school system, no village property tax, small government, proximity to family, uniqueness of downtown Long Grove, or other. How much longer do you anticipate continuing to live in Long Grove? 0 to 3 years, 4 to 6 years, 7 to 10 years, over 10 years, I have no plans to leave, or not applicable, I do not live in Long Grove. If you anticipate leaving Long Grove, what would be your reasons? Choose all that apply. Downsizing, want a smaller property, children graduating from high school, want to move out of state, changing jobs, want a town with more services, or other. Long Grove has no multifamily housing stock. Would you support or oppose high-end luxury multifamily housing in the following development areas identified in the Long Grove Comprehensive Plan? And there's all of the different, there's the near historic downtown area, near Sunset Grove Business, near Menards, near Long Grove Commons. And then the options are strongly support, support, oppose, or strongly oppose. Oh, and also, I'm sorry, broke down to the other page, near Midlothian Road and Route 60, near Route 83 and 45. And then the last is an open-ended question. What other comments or thoughts would you share about housing choices you'd like to see in Long Grove, and or why you moved to Long Grove?
It's a very, very good survey. One comment I have,
right.
there's something there on no village taxes. I think it's going to confuse people because they have no idea. They may not understand the difference between their tax bill and nothing and no tax in Long Grove. I just think it's confusing.
So would you remove it, or would you just say
That'd be my recommendation. Yeah. To remove it.
Yeah,
I agree with Erwin.
yeah.
We've all spent time explaining how that works to people that we thought were bright, and they have no clue.
Right. No, I think this is very, very good. Very thorough,
Yeah.
very good.
Very good.
Okay. So now I'll pose a question to the group. If it goes through, the board likes this, what would we consider a success in terms of getting responses? I don't know how we're going to market this, send it out, but what would be a success? 5% of what we send out, 100, because we haven't had a lot of success in this. So I think we got to start measuring things that we do. So what would the group think would be success on this in getting responses back?
Success, I'm new here. No, my understanding is that success is really a relatively low rate of return. And one of my daughters is in the business and design surveys, and I didn't think to ask her, but I'll ask her what it is. But I know from talking to her that they get a 30% return, and they're thrilled. That's a real win, and that's with actually following up with phone calls after they send the stuff out. So, yeah, we got to have a metric, and I'd be realistic. So, looking for 80% is, I don't think, realistic.
Right. When we oftentimes only have 10% of the people showing up to vote, I think.
Right.
Respond to a survey is it's difficult. My sister-in-law is also in the business, and I agree. It's hard to get. If you get to 30%, you're thrilled.
This is Mike. One thing I'd like to recommend is if this does get approved and we send it out, I'd like to recommend that we kind of socialize it first. So put something in the Bridge newsletter, put something on the website, maybe even send a preview communication out saying, hey, Long Grove's interested in your opinion. We value our residents' opinion. Look for a survey during whatever week in August or whatever week in the second week in September, just as an example, right? So
Yes.
make people aware of it. And then if people are interested in voicing their opinion, which we know a lot of people are, unfortunately most people aren't, they're going to look for it, right? Versus something just showing up, they may not even see it. So that's just one suggestion to maybe drive a little bit higher engagement. I don't think it'll help tremendously, but it certainly won't hurt.
Well, how about this? If you do a tease in the newsletter or whatever, and make it about multifamily housing, or mid-rise apartment, condo, whatever you want to call it, that one hot button will probably get some people, at least fired up to do something with a survey. Or it might.
It's true that's a hot button, but I don't think I'd broadcast the content, because the survey is asking about more than that one topic, right? If you're gonna tease it with that, then tease it with, we're asking your opinion about things like how long you've lived here, what you'd like to see, and your opinion on multifamily housing, right? So cover maybe 2 or 3 topics that we're trying to get in the survey. I realize that's the main piece of information we're trying to get. And you're right. If that is a hot button, then people more than likely will respond. But then you also may skew the results, because people that are super opposed to it are going to say, oh, I for sure am going to wait for this, and because I don't want multi-housing. And the people that are indifferent or in favor of it might not be as likely to respond, right? Because they're fine with it. They're not going to take the time to respond to a survey, perhaps. So if you telegraph that one issue, the people that are opposed to it are going to jump all over it.
What about framing it? And it's just purely off the top of my head. What about framing it as, do people come here and stay, or is a rapid turnover suburb? The Village of Services probably should be attracted. If we have people who just move and stay forever, then there's one kind of a need for Village Services. If we have people who are in and out for 4 years for Stevens or whatever it is, that's a whole different picture. And if we can frame that somewhere, that might, it interests me. I'd really like to know if there are, in fact, lots of in for 5 years and gone.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I just think, look for a survey. We're asking for your opinion, and point out that we really value our residents' opinion. Please participate so your voice is heard, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Again, just my opinion on it.
I like the narrow focus of this first set of questions too, or relatively narrow.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, there's so much, I think this has potential to be really helpful, but I think we have to start using this service, and this is a good way to throw, it's a good topic. Questions are pretty easy. I hate a lot of open-ended questions. I'm on the Gallup poll, and I but when they ask for paragraphs, I'm always like, oh, I don't have time for this. So I like, it's not going to take somebody a lot of time, but they have the opportunity to say something in that last question. So I think we just have to try.
Jenny, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is this being sent out solely by mail, or is it going to go electronic via our constant contact database?
I think that the goal would be to, like we did for the survey on the orchestra of the 4th of July, I think it would be put out on our website. It would be posted in Facebook. It would be posted with a link to the survey. So all electronically. I don't know if it will align with the hard copy, that we sent out in the bridge, but if we could, that would, for people that, we could even have a paper copy that if people aren't online, if we sent it out in the paper in the bridge, that they could pick it up, pick up a hard copy in the village hall. Because you have a point, there's people that aren't online.
Yeah, this survey right now, as it's set up, is set up electronically using the poll call tool that we have. Certainly you could duplicate it in paper, but right now we could let it go right now and then use links, but it could certainly be duplicated in paper.
Sounds like everybody's ready to go.
That's what I was asking, Jenny, because if it was going out in paper, the return rate increases with a addressed envelope back. And then the other question is, if it goes out in paper and electronic, how do we avoid skewed data with the data being repeated by the same respondent? So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm thinking mostly of a demographic that we really want to hear from, the people that skew towards the higher end of this, that might not be on electronics, and we're wanting to know if they want to live in housing, in multifamily housing, and stay in Boston.
Yeah, I get it. Yep.
So, I mean, that's a good question. I think we should make a hard copy available. I don't know if we want to mail it, if we want to invest in the mailing. I think, Anne, didn't you say it's about $1,000 to send anything out to all the residents?
Yeah, if you do, at least during our election, to basically do the, all addresses through the United States Postal System, it was around $800-900. We were trying to do it fast. I don't know if that made a difference, if there's a kind of slower way or not. I think Bobby is looking at.
Was that a letter or a post? I'm sorry, Ann, I didn't mean to talk over you. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. No, I think Bobby is also investigating some other stuff, mailing out to all of the village too. And to your question, Mike, I'm sorry, I may have talked over you. That was a large postcard.
Large postcard. Okay, that was my question. Because certainly you can send out a large postcard with a link, right? But then you're not giving someone the ability, if they're not online, to fill out the survey paper copy and send it back. So,
can I ask, do we really think people aren't online? I completely believe they're not on social media, but the Investment Company Institute, people with mutual funds and stuff like that, over 95% of the people who own mutual funds have access to the internet. I have to believe that Long Grove has access to the internet. I completely believe not many of them will be on social media, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the majority, for sure. I mean, overwhelming majority. Go ahead.
To move forward, I don't see anything wrong with just doing an electronic survey, a digital survey, whatever you want to call it, sending it out, seeing what kind of return we get. We can ask the same question again in 2 months and send it out by mail and see what the difference is, if that's what we have as a feel for what's going on. But the digital is collated automatically, right? And we don't have to take the postcards and count the votes.
I was just thinking maybe you could put a little asterisk on the bottom, in the newsletter.
Oh yeah.
Then
they're going anyway.
They're getting it electronically, so it's a move. But I guess if it was going out in the bridge, you could put, if you're interested in filling this out and don't have access to the internet, please stop by the village hall and fill out a hard copy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good point.
So we got a survey. And we're good with the form.
So I'll remove the question and then put it forth to the board for their comments.
Excellent.
Okay. All right, are we moving on to Greg now?
I think so. So, I've never met you, and I hope you're not offended if I call you Greg right from the start, but
No, absolutely.
21st century manners being what they are. Greg, thank you for coming and spending some time with us. We are, we're trying to attract business. We're trying to find out what kind of business we want to attract. We're trying to find out what's realistic in terms of what is attractable. And, if we're doing all these things, we want to be aligned with your thinking. So maybe start by just telling us a little bit about your background. I know a little bit, but
yeah, it's well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. The invitation from Jenny was much appreciated. I am a staunch advocate for supporting economic development, chambers of commerce, business associations, and that's because I know the importance and value they bring to the vibrancy of the community. So both from an economic development standpoint, community development standpoint, those are economic and community development are areas that I really enjoy working in. It's you can actually see the product of your work. So I'm excited. Thank you, Jenny, for asking me to be here as well, Roger. Little bit about my background. I did a mid-career change to go into the public sector. I was in the Marine Corps, came out of the Marine Corps, bound and determined to either be a police officer or a firefighter. I was born and raised in Chicago, Chicago Southwest side, and met my wife, who is my compass, for a lack of a better description. And we've been married 33 years, and I credit her for everything that's good that happens and has happened in my life. And it's I've been very fortunate. She was the one who encouraged me to go to school, and I started going back to school and worked through my associates, my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctoral studies of public policy and public administration. My background in this field, I started out with the Cook County Board as a director of special projects. My main focus in that job was outreach to the Latino community. I was the board's liaison between the Latino members of the board and Humboldt Park and Logan Square areas that were at that time predominantly Latino. I then did some work in the private sector in policy and government affairs, then taking a position with Winthrop Harbor as the county administrator, and I really got my feet wet there doing economic development. And then I came back from Winthrop Harbor, ended up in the city of Highwood, was able to participate in get some initiatives going that is really taking that city and put it back on the map up on the North Shore. Served as the executive director of the Illinois Center for Violence Prevention, which was a public policy and public policy think tank as it related to capacity building on for violence from child abuse to elder abuse. Did some consulting for municipalities, including Waukegan and Winthrop Harbor. Winthrop Harbor asked me to create a position of village administrator, what it would look like, what the scope of responsibilities would be. And as they started to do their search, they just asked me. And they said, why don't you be our person? And I was excited to do that. Launched some really exciting opportunities from an economic development standpoint up in Winthrop Harbor too, which I hope they carry forward because I think it can make a dramatic impact to that municipality. And then I was fortunate enough to arrive here. I thank President Jacob and the entire village board for their trust and confidence, and I'm excited to be here. That story leads me to where I'm at today. The economic development is so important in this municipality. because it's such an important part of revenues that are gained to run the day-to-day operations of local government. Without there being a property tax here, it is vital for us to make sure that the village is vibrant and that our local economy is strong, and that we adapt and stay focused on not just today, but tomorrow. I think none of us would have envisioned, to the extent that we see it now, what our world looks like post-pandemic, or as close to post-pandemic as we can be. Retail is not the same. Service delivery is not the same. Certainly how we deliver government government goods and services is not the same. So I think we need to keep our eye on the ball and be able to adjust and adapt to change. There are things that make Long Grove iconic. I mean, the village is fortunate for having the brand that it has. When people hear of Long Grove, they have a vision of Long Grove. And though our business community down in the historic B1 district area is really, really important, we have economic development and economic development opportunities throughout the village. I made a point to seeing as many business owners as I possibly can and could in the past 4 months, from up on 45 and 60 to Sunset Grove to the Commons, as well as making sure I got to know the people in our historic business district. My approach to economic development has been some of it it's not exactly necessarily textbook, but to some extent it is. I think if we're going to deal with businesses, we should look at how we attract and retain businesses. Every place I've gone, I've done a SWOT analysis, and it's kind of strange because we're government and we're not we can't run government like a business. The marketplace is different. The goods and services we deliver to a great extent are still different. But you take a SWOT analysis and you go into a community and you say, okay, what are these community strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And many of you have been in the business world, so you know exactly what I'm describing. For example, I went into Woodford County, recognizing that it was a rural county, mostly farmland, soybean. It was a bedroom community for Caterpillar on the west side because we bordered downtown Peoria, and Bloomington Normal, we had Mitsubishi and State Farm. So on the south end of the county, we served as a bedroom community for that, but the rest of the county was rural. And any type of economic development other than a Casey's gas station and mini mart, a local community restaurant, there wasn't a great opportunity to bring economic development in. One of the projects I was pleased to work on and initiate, and then saw through Springfield with having legislation enacted by the General Assembly on taxing related to it, were wind farms and renewable energy. Central Illinois is not the windiest place in the world. People may think it's windy. We've got tornadoes down there, and trust me, they have tornadoes down there. But it was the proximity to the grid off of I-39 that I knew was attractive, and being able to get that energy to ComEd and the different electricity distributors. They implemented. We revised our zoning ordinance, because regulatory is an important part of business development. We held the hands of the renewable energy wind farm developers, because bureaucracy in government's tough to navigate. So we served as a guide to streamline the process. We kept lines of communication open, and not only did they get one wind farm when I was leaving, and they were looking at how they were going to bring in the turbines, 2 more projects from 2 separate companies were in the works. The amount of revenue that came in to offset property taxes related to schools and residences was phenomenal. We had some significant resistance out of the box, but we were able to bring people along by fostering stakeholder involvement, letting people be part of the decision making, and recognizing that even though we may not agree or the decision may not be to take everybody's ideas or approach into mind. We did listen and we did consider. And it was very, very successful, and I was very pleased about that. It's something that through a career that's spanned in public service over 25 years, you could take and say, this could be part of my legacy, no matter how small it is. I went to Highwood, and many of you may remember Highwood in the mid 2000s, a little bit later. It wasn't what it is now. And I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to have a village board, city council there, I'm sorry, that was very receptive and open to ideas. They may not have agreed on everything from a policy standpoint, but they stayed consistent in where they wanted to see the city of Highwood go. My first contribution there was with Highwood for the holidays. I wanted to bring some attention back into the town. I had discussions with, at that time, Mayor Vince Donofrio and the city council about starting our first festival, which was called Highwood for the Holidays. And what we did was we invited military from Great Lakes and Fort Sheridan into town, roasted chestnuts, had carolers, decorated the town, had every business that was a restaurant in town committed to offering free meals to every one of the military members, and they did. It took off. From there, we started a gourmet farmers market, which is now probably one of the premier farmers markets on the North Shore, if not in the entire Lake County. And then we did the first Pumpkin Fest, and it has evolved into Bloody Mary Fest and all these other fests, Garlic Fest, Tomato Fest. But when you think of festivals outside of Long Grove, you think of Highwood, and the community has done quite well from this. They've had almost to 100,000 visitors come into their town on any given weekend for a fest. Again, I started igniting the wick and had left Highwood at that point, where it really, really exploded. But I'm proud to say that Mayor Picaro, who's still the sitting mayor there, and that city council kept the vision of the previous administration, knew the value of bringing people and businesses into the town. Now you go into Highwood and there's almost a zero vacancy rate in their downtown area for businesses, and people are scrambling to get there. They've put up 3 new mixed use developments, and the density of that town has always been what it is. It's always been a dense town. But they took a 2 to 3 story mixed use development, and they've got 3 facilities or 3 development projects working right now. But again, they've taken the approach of, if we can bring people in town, they will understand the value of our business community, patronize our business community, and they'll do what every town, much like ours here in Long Grove, we want people to remember that town as a destination. When people are deciding on the weekend what they want to do, we want them coming to Long Grove. Most recently in Winthrop Harbor, same thing. I looked at our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. And in doing so, it came very apparent to me that we will never get the traffic that in Winthrop Harbor, because of its location to the Kenosha border, not much going on the north side of the Kenosha border. Sheridan Road, very inactive over there because of the fact of 41 and 94. So the traffic that once used to go through that town, because Sheridan Road was the main thoroughfare, had diminished significantly over the years, and the previous administrations and commissions didn't know how to react to that completely. I went in there and I recognized that there were Ramsar wetlands, which are nationally recognized wetlands. There is the largest freshwater marina on the Great Lakes with some premier fishing in that area. The IDNR has research facilities right on the border of Winthrop Harbor and Zion. The nuclear power plant had been decommissioned, so that was no longer as much of a concern in that area. So my recommendation to the board was to become an ecotourism destination. The tree canopy, the wetlands, the bird watching, Those things are recognized nationally for that town, but the town did not exploit that to the benefit of making Winthrop Harbor a destination. We had started discussions on a public-private partnership for an eco campus just outside the boundaries of the marina on city property adjacent to the IDNR property. It was to be a plan to bring government, academia, and the private sector together in a research facility for the purpose of studying the environment. They were planning on potentially doing solar panels for solar energy on the campus grounds. We were looking at something about the size of the University Center at CLC in Grays Lake. I had approached Congressman Schneider, Senator Duckworth, our state rep, our state senator, our county board member, all up in that area, and every one of them signed on to it. We had started putting together a marketing plan to take it out for our private sector partnership. And then, and to move it forward, we identified the land that we were going to look to acquire and had started putting the funding mechanisms in place and for the land acquisition. And then the pandemic hit. And like everything else with the pandemic, you wait, see, and adjust. And that plan sits with Winthrop Harbor now. I still get calls from Mayor Bruno on contacts he could continue to make. Mayor Bruno's the mayor in Winthrop Harbor. I didn't mention earlier, I had a background in academia. I had taught for 11 years at Northeastern Illinois University as a lecturer in public policy. And I still sit on faculty at IIT, the Illinois Institute of Technology, in their MPA program. So I tapped into resources that I've known and networked with in not only those two institutions of higher learning, but other ones to see if they had an interest of participating in this, and there was a genuine interest. So I hope that project moves forward, and I can also say I lit the wick there as well, and see where that ends up going. I've always been aggressive in my approach on economic development, not a bull in a China shop necessarily, but somebody who believes that you can't accept no for an answer. You look at the data, let the data take you where it needs to. Listen, as the old adage goes, that's why the Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you try to listen a little bit more and take in valuable information that you can apply down the line. And I'm the first one in the room to always admit, and my wife would verify this with multiple yes. I'm not always the brightest guy in the room, but I pretty much feel comfortable that I know where to get the answers, and I know that sometimes you listen to other people's ideas because they have value. I see the EDC's responsibility, and I just share this out of past experience as an organization who brings to the table ideas to the village board, the policymakers, based on what they've done in their research or data gathering or what they're hearing from the community. It's important for the village board, and the village board, I know, recognizes this because each of the board members have shared it. The village board knows they have to have an idea where to go before you guys can do your job as well on the EDC. The EDC is about retaining business and expanding business, about attracting business, about promoting business, about looking at our regional toolbox with the Lake County partners and our communities around us and see how we can do something collectively that can benefit not only the individual municipalities, but the region as a whole. Some things that, I've come accustomed to are business summits, where an annual business summit where we bring businesses together and say, okay, how are things going? You had a great year. What can we do to even make it stronger? What other businesses should be having in the community that complement your business? Business recognition programs for those who have turned around and weathered the storms and have been here for a long time. I think of Within Reach, 39 years they've been in business. I think of Chip and Marianne and God bless Norma Sales from years ago over at the Village Tavern. And then beautification awards. I was walking through town with Senator McConaughey about a week ago. And I have to say, I looked at some of the buildings in town and some of the work that's been done, and it's been, wonderful. And then I look at other areas in town, right in our downtown area, right next to buildings that are up in operation. And I shake my head saying, how would we, with this iconic brand and this downtown area, allow a property to be in such disrepair or have questionable property maintenance practices on there? And I'm too new, so I try not to be a bull in the china shop, but these are observations that a fresh set of eyes comes in and makes. I believe that government should not be an obstacle to businesses, but should be a partner. I believe that there are policies, zoning regulations, codes that are in place for the betterment of the entire community, and they have to be adhered to because it's about the whole and not the individual. But I also believe that we should not be regulating businesses to a point of being disruptive if that regulation doesn't serve a purpose to the overall community. However, that being said, that is a perspective as a practitioner in public administration. The decisions on regulatory decisions belong with the elected body that I'm proud to serve. And that falls on them to decide what they believe is in the best interest of the community as it relates to regulation. And my staff and myself's function to carry out that direction. I was so concerned about government being an obstacle when I got to Highwood. Mayor Donna Frio had said to me, businesses won't come in the community because it's just difficult. It takes them forever to get their permits. They have to keep coming back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I started a business response team in Highwood. And what I did there was when a developer of a potential project came into town, our whole team came together. My fire prevention services came together, my law enforcement came together, our public works, water, sewer, the whole team came together to discuss the plan with the developer or the potential business owner. We wanted to, as close as we possibly could, make it a one-stop shop for that business owner and to relieve as much, to alleviate as much ambiguity as possible. We're government, they're not. We need to guide them through what our expectations are. Now, they may not necessarily agree with our expectations or our requirements, but I think that businesses would rather know something up front than to find something out later. Time is money, and anytime you take that time and drag it out, businesses are sitting there not making money. So I'm excited about what I see here in Long Grove. I try to remember all the time, and I try to get out into the village every single day, trying to either go into a subdivision or stop by a business, or I believe in I draw back on my Marine Corps experience that there's nothing more valuable than boots on the ground to get an assessment or get a firm appreciation or full appreciation of what the context, the environment that you're working in. So I make it a point to be out in the field at least once a day to see what's going on. And the one thing I find myself in awe of every time I drive through this absolutely remarkable village, and not just because I'm working here, but it's a remarkable village without a doubt. I remember when I lived next door in Buffalo Grove for a number of years, 7 years. And we used to come here on a regular basis, my wife and I. And I remember houses, I remember Royal Melbourne and things being tucked away in these HOAs and in these subdivisions. But I always remembered the downtown, but I never had an appreciation for everything that existed outside of the downtown and how remarkably beautiful these areas in the town are, not just the residential areas, but and also not realizing how far Long Grove truly extended. You know, when I'm up on 60 and 45 meeting with the businesses late last week, or over in the Commons not recognizing there was an Indian restaurant back there and a Dunkin' Donuts place that was probably happy to see me go into town if you look at my waistline. So it's amazing. And so I want to always remember that from an economic development standpoint, that our business community is not just the downtown area, but the entire village. We're having a job fair on Monday. I don't know if it's coming out in the newsletter. I walked into Joanne's Pizza, or Joni's Pizza, I'm sorry. And it was the weekend before the weekend after I had started. And she had told us that she had to adjust her hours because she couldn't staff because of the workforce situation. And I came back and I talked to my wife, and we're, thinking this through, and she's my sounding board. And then I came back and talked to President Jacob and Trustee O'Reilly about a job fair. And we were able to, on short notice, get this off the ground. But so it's going to be hosted at Joni's on Monday from 10 to 2. We've got some advertisement going out on it in a press release. I talked to Mike over at Chatterbox last night. He's going to be attending it. Domino's is going to attend it. So it wasn't just downtown. Domino's was very excited about it. Starbucks is very excited. Sunset's coming. Starbucks is coming. Domino's is coming. The Village Tavern. It's not a big thing, but it was what I could do at the time on the limited knowledge I had to extend a hand to our local business community, saying, you're important to us. Our village board knows you're important to us. What can I do to help? And then I pulled resources through Vicarious together and our village board support, and was able to get something small happening, but maybe in some way it'll be helpful. So that's been I apologize for rambling. That's kind of been my position on economic development. I'm truly excited to be here. I'm truly excited to work with this village board. And I look forward to a close and strong working relationship with the EDC. I want to be a resource. Again, I'm not the smartest guy necessarily in the room, but I know where to get answers, and I think I'm good with that. I think I can look at something objectively and have a vision. I am one person who firmly believes that now is not always, and that you need to look forward. You need to be progressive in your thinking. Some things are good the way they are and should never be compromised, but the world is changing. How businesses are run is changing, remotely, in person, services, retail, and I think that we will be left behind if we do not have forward thinking in the sense of what's next. And we can do it responsibly, and we can do it keeping the character, the incredible character of this village. So thank you for inviting me again, Jenny and Roger. I appreciate it. And to the committee members, thank you.
Certainly somebody has a question out there. I know I do. Anybody else something to chew on with right here?
I have a question. I'm interested in your comments on Highwood, and obviously it's great to see what's going on over there. I'm curious. You mentioned that the current vacancy rate is low, and it's that people are clamoring to get in there. What was, just out of curiosity, what was the vacancy rate when you first went there, and was it better or worse than a vacancy rate in Long Grove, for example?
I would tell you it's, and I'm going to compare Highwood's downtown to Long Grove's downtown. The vacancy rate that Long Grove experiences right now is probably equal to what I experienced when I got into Highwood.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing was, Highwood saw this shift of a business that let's call retail, because it's a restaurant hub on the North Shore. Yep. I think we know that. What we saw there was a shift into some services. So one of the things I've also been looking at here, and I just got the data, is our village ordinance for the B1 district does an 80-20 split between retail and services. which is a good thing to do, a good policy decision. Perhaps it needs to be tweaked somewhere down the line on the percentages, but I understand the thinking of the body that approved that policy. So Highwood started seeing a shift of beauty salons, nail salons, those type of things coming into town. They had some consignment shops that left. So now they've seen this growth of restaurants coming back in, new restaurants. They also had a cannabis dispensary there. I don't know if people are aware of that. There used to be on Highwood and Green Bay a brewery on the southwest corner of that town, which is now a cannabis dispensary. Very indiscreet. You wouldn't know what it was until you see the security personnel that are at the door when going by. But back to the original question, the vacancy rate was about comparable to what we see here in Long Grove now. And that was in 2007, 2008 in Highwood. So 14 years ago.
Well, kudos then, because I'm honestly shocked to hear that. I only know Highwood, recently, right? So that's amazing that it went from that high of a vacancy rate to what it is today. So that's super encouraging.
Yeah, and Highwood had a very ethnic community in the sense it was an old Italian mason community of stone workers and bricklayers, and so they had this deep rooted tradition. The Caputo family had one of their first stores in downtown Highwood, and then Joe and Tony and Pasquale, they all expanded into their different businesses. But that one vacancy is probably the biggest vacancy they have in town, and now it's being looked at for development. But yeah, to your point, it's amazing what's happened over 14 years, and it's extremely encouraging for our village here. It's being able to get people into town. I have to tell you, what's got to be tough is walking into town, looking at some of these vacant properties, and asking the question, based on the vacancy rate, is this where I want to be? That's what we had to convince people in Highwood, and again, that wasn't just me. The administrations after me carried that torch. It was about convincing people that Highwood was the place to be for your business. This is where you need to be, and this is why. And I think that's something we can tackle here as well.
That's very encouraging. And I don't mean to hog the conversation, so I apologize. But my other question is, looking back on what you did in Highwood, how much proactive work did you do? Did the team there do to go out and proactively bring businesses to the town versus being passive and waiting for potential businesses to come in? I think that's a big difference maker. The more we can do proactively. So I'd be happy to hear your comments on that.
Yeah, passiveness was not a term we used out there. Passive wasn't acceptable. The we will build it and it will come mentality served no purpose. We recognize that. It was, I will credit Mayor Picaro and Trustee Eric Fahlberg out there, who were just relentless in tapping their personal networks to get them into town, and then working with the staff to say, okay, hold these people's hands. What do we got to do to help them? It was a partnership between staff and the board. The staff was allowed to do what they do well, and that's to implement. And the policymakers were clear and unambiguous as to what they wanted to happen. And it took, and I see this with our board, and I see it with members of our business community, Mary at the confection and Jesse DeSoto over at the dance studio, and Ryan, I hope I'm saying his Messner, I think I'm saying his name right. They're great ambassadors. They're absolutely terrific ambassadors for the business community. Our board are great ambassadors. There's not a time that a board member doesn't talk to me about something that we did downtown, or something coming up, or thinking about the community, and not just downtown, but the entire village. you can't be passive. There's too many. Lake Zurich wants businesses. You know, Highwood's still looking for a couple businesses to fill. And you know, I can go on and on about towns. Highland Park, downtown Highland Park. We're all competing. What do we have in Long Grove that are going to bring people to Long Grove? And we can't be stale. I mean, we've got to stay in tune to what the consumer wants, because that's why they will come to Long Grove. People will come to Long Grove because they remember 20 years ago when they would come into Long Grove and Mangles was open and the Apple House was open, and you could see the mill churning the, you know, where the barrel was that would churn the apples. And, you know, and we 20 years ago was, you know, that's what people expect, or who had been here expected. And now they're not seeing that. The brand that Long Grove has, it doesn't, when you get here, there's something missing, and that's attributed to that vacancy rate. You see some beautiful stores and some beautiful, you know, shops, the wineries and the restaurants, and then you see an empty blue building with boarded up windows. I mean, all due respect to that property owner, all due respect I'm not in that property owner's position, but they had to have windows boarded up with wood in this beautiful historic town. I just don't think it's a place for it. And I think if we're going to market, we need to put our best foot forward. You wouldn't sell your house without cleaning it. You wouldn't sell your house without staging it. How would we expect to bring people in and invite them and make them feel welcome if this is what we're saying our town's about? And if I may be a little bit off base on that, and I may be outside of my scope in saying things like that, but that's somebody coming into the community, and that's the impression.
Yeah, as a resident, I couldn't agree more, and I appreciate your comments on that. So I look forward to catching up and talking about LinkedIn. I apologize, we haven't connected yet, but I appreciate your email, and look forward to continuing our conversation.
Thank you, Mike. I do too.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I didn't hear what someone else had said, but I do have two questions for you, Greg. One, does the HDLGBA know about the job fair, and are they putting it out on like their Facebook page, that kind of thing? Because if not, we should be.
Yeah, I do know that I have had conversation with the people that are part of that, including Trustee O'Reilly, who's actively engaged with that. I cannot say if they're putting it out on their Facebook page. I know that Denise in our office here, our new director of operations, was working with Vicarious to send the communication and the press releases out to as many entities as they can. I would say I believe they are, but I can't tell you definitively if they're not. But if they aren't,
okay,
we'll make sure it does.
I will check in with Jasmine and Ryan, and because I've got to talk to them about something else. So yeah, I will look into that. Second question was, were you there for the Chinese Lantern Festival? Was that during your tenure?
No, it was not. I was there for Pumpkin Fest.
Okay, we enjoyed many Pumpkin Fests in Highwood when the girls were young. Was the Chinese Lantern Festival after you left?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
It was. Yeah, that was a fun night. We were sad that it didn't. More did not come, but we get it. We saw some of the fires.
No. Yeah, it's. I will tell you, Pumpkin Fest is known nationally now for Highwood's Pumpkin Fest. So it's pretty amazing.
It is. It's crazy how many they've got going. It's awesome. We've carved. It had some great times in Highwood. Our
first Pumpkin Fest, which was the one I was involved with, that with the subsequently, the village again took everything and ran with it, and did great things beyond whatever I contributed, and kudos to them. But I remember us being out there as employees of the village, throwing up scaffolding, turning around and carving pumpkins. We were in the Public Works building just carving pumpkins to all hours of the night because it was our first one and we wanted to make an impression. The community didn't, at that point, visitors didn't come out and do it yet. But it was so important for us to make that successful, and we believed so much that it could be, that we all just did whatever it took to get it done. So,
And it worked.
it did.
As a group of EDC is, I would say, challenged a bit because we don't, well, we think that it would be a good thing to bring in more traditional businesses as opposed to the mom and pop stores. Or, to put it another way, the small retail is a dying breed. And
Right.
we're just, you know, we need something else to fill up the long road. I don't know what it is. There are people who have suggested that very expensive condominiums would be a good match, you know, relatively small scale, filling in some of the areas around downtown. But you know, this is a discussion that I hope, are working toward having and getting agreement with the village board members and get some development going.
You know, I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable sharing this simply because it's been part of our most recent board meeting. But the board has recognized the need to sit down and discuss a vision and a strategy going forward. President Jacob and the board decided a week ago at the last board meeting for us to move forward with the strategy vision session. Not only so we as a village government can be unified in our position as to what we want to do, but to give clear direction to myself and staff on the objectives that need to be achieved. It's difficult to turn around and get someplace if you don't know where you're going. I think we can all appreciate that. But the board has been supportive and generous and resolute in their desire to make sure everybody is heard and that the board members are ready to in a unified voice tell us which way we need to go. Condos and multi-use and townhomes, that's a decision that the board and the community are going to have to make, and we're ready to implement whatever that model looks like.
The EDC is a relatively new comer to the village. For years, the concerns were just, you know, how wide are the side lots and do they have enough acres to get in under the. So suddenly we're realizing that without a hardware store and a grocery store, the village would have significant difficulties paying the bills. So what used to come to some degree from the small shops in town, I think has dried up from what I've seen of the sales tax reports. As an EDC, as an adjunct that looks at this all the time, any thoughts on what our better paths would be?
Well, I would say a couple of things. Being a young organization, there are growing pains. That's inevitable with any committee or structure, or any committee or commission as they're developing. You know, one of the things I found out when I arrived here was there was no clear mission statement for our staff. So we're working on that now, a clear mission statement, and then each department on their own individual mission statements in fulfilling the village's master mission statement, if you will. So I think it's clear to know what the mission of the EDC is, what your objectives and goals are. I would offer this. This would probably be my most significant piece of advice. Organizations that accept businesses in the community just for the sake of accepting it because they need to fill a gap end up inevitably hurting themselves down the line. Taking an approach, an organized approach, a strategic approach. So I would argue wholeheartedly for a comprehensive economic development strategy, even though we would look at that on a more regional approach, but for this town, be deliberate in what you're going to do, no matter how difficult the times. Try to stay true to the plan as much as you can. Things do change, and you do have to adapt. There's absolutely no question about that. But we've got to remember, whatever decision we make today as a government entity, whether it's through commissions, the village board, or the staff who are going to be implementing, these are things that are going to affect the community for a period of time. And so those decisions on what businesses come into this community, what type of growth, what growth looks like from a residential standpoint, those type of things will have a lasting impact. And it's sometimes easier to do things for the sake of seeing something get done. But even though easier may not necessarily be better. I would offer to the committee, and I am more than pleased to work with the committee on it, is to develop a strategic plan on moving the village forward based on the village board's policy objectives, because they are the policy-making body, and it's their choice as to where we go. It is the electorate that put them in office with their votes to represent them. So the village board is the vehicle for saying, this is where we need you guys to go or look at. And then if you look at that and you find it doesn't work, bring that to the board so the board can make a decision based on good information and good data. Too often decisions are made at the policy level without having adequate data or necessarily good data. That's the role of the EDC. The EDC is the fact finder. The EDC is the one who says, we did this survey and our demographic tells us at this age, this is what people are looking for, and this demographic is growing or this demographic is shrinking. And we've got to be able as a government to be able to adapt to that to meet those needs. But I could.
Yeah, that's what I think we've been telling ourselves. Go ahead.
No, Roger, I just could not be a greater advocate for a strategic approach to what we do and database.
But as of right now, we're kind of constrained in terms of what we look at is upside says big houses on big lots and little stores. And I don't know if that is going to work going forward.
Yeah, I can't give you a vision on it.
Yeah.
Greg, this is Erwin. I'm listening to this and it's sort of chicken and egg. Would you think as the board develops their, I think you used the word mission or discuss the strategic issues, if the EDC, I've been involved, I think 3 years, and we've come up with some great ideas, thoughts. We've had a lot of objections. If we just come up with some bullet points to present to you, here's the things we did over the last 3 years, here's what we're hearing, and you could bring that as you develop the strategic plan and work with the board on it. So, we'll end up going full circle. We'll get some feedback from them. So you can understand what we've tried to do and some of our thoughts on that. Maybe some bullet points, half a dozen of, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and what we think we need to present to the board. I'm just trying to figure out rather than starting from zero.
Yeah,
we've all worked very hard on this.
Yeah, I would, in fact, Erwin, I would tell you, I think that's a wise approach. I think having those points, our discussion points as the board moves forward with this vision strategy session, they are certainly going to be talking about community and economic development, and having those points. I can tell you unequivocally that the village board appreciates the work that the commission has been doing and putting in. They appreciate that people take the time to volunteer and and work towards moving the village forward. There's no question in my mind that's the belief of our village board. Our village board is certainly going to embrace what ideas embrace from the standpoint of looking at, discussing, and analyzing ideas that this commission may have developed and want to put forward. So long way around, Erwin, I would be happy to carry that forward to that session.
Great, thank you.
There's actually a document in Google Docs that did that about a year and a half ago. So we'll be starting to, I'll dig that out and send that to you, Owen, okay?
Absolutely.
Sounds good. All right. Anybody else? Anything?
I just want to thank you, Greg, so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to this collaboration. I think one of the things I think the EDC has been missing is kind of a compass to kind of network between the board and the staff. Denise offered that to some extent, but I like your EDC platform that you're bringing to us, and I'm excited. So thank you so much.
Well, I thank you. I thank you again, Jenny. I thank Roger. Thank you, the entire commission. Thank you for what you are doing in your time as volunteers for the village. And please know that I'm a resource. You can tap me for anything. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is Pam. I do appreciate your coming, Greg, and lending your expertise. And I think the examples, what we've talked about here, particularly Highwood, I think in the last 10, 15 years, their evolution and, they're where they were, it was very similar to Long Grove. So I think that's just another great example. And, we can bring those, your expertise and those tools to bear and move forward on that basis. I think it's great. I think it'll be a great partnership.
And again, I will tell you that it's about whatever gets developed. The next people get elected in and out of office all the time, and we see that. I mean, it's the nature of politics. The public's opinion and moods change, or priorities change. So does the elected body. But the success, as I think I shared with Pam, is the body that implemented those first events out in Highwood were the catalyst for everything that came afterwards. But those elected bodies afterwards recognized the value of what was happening, and rather than just shifting something for the sake of shifting, they carried it forward.
No.
And that was the success.
Greg, I have to ring off. There's a lady here who wants to take my blood. So, I'm in the hospital.
When that happens.
Yeah, isn't that all right? Great hearing you. Yeah, I'm sure you all continue on without me, but I'm taking off. Bye-bye.
Bye, Roger.
Your recovery.
Yeah, good recovery, Roger. So our next steps, I think we've talked about it here, that I like your idea, Erwin, of highlighting our accomplishments of the EDC over the last few years, and what has worked, what has not worked, and what we think we can bring to the table. What we can help facilitate for the town. So maybe that's the next step.
I think that would be good. But my last comment is, Greg, you mentioned we have this iconic brand, and I think we do. I think our mindset has to change also. Is there's a new generation of residences, of business, of buyers, of consumers, and how we take that iconic brand and transfer it to those people. So, maybe we need a theme for the future also as we move forward.
We've talked on many occasions, Greg, and I know you've voiced that yourself, that Long Grove has always been a destination. And I think, you know, that's kind of where we start. It always has been. And how do we move that forward? How do we move that forward into this time period and the future? Because we need to have that theme, you know, that we've always had. Long Grove is a destination, and how do we move that forward and make it work now and in the future?
Yeah, I would concur, Pam. Nothing can be. It does no community good or justice by just thinking for the present without thinking for the future. I mean, that's the purpose of plans. Capital improvement plans are 5 years in scope. Comprehensive plans can be anywhere from 8 to 12 years in scope. You have to think about today, but you also have to think about tomorrow. That all being said, you never forget where you came from, but it's putting it all together.
Well, I talked to Jesse last night and I agree with him. I think that Long Grove is ripe for a rebirth. I think we've got a lot of great businesses really building their clientele, and I see a lot of potential. So I'm excited. I just think we need to, you know, I'm also looking forward to the strategic planning, kind of get all of the board on board to kind of see where we're headed. So I'm excited. I think it's a great time to be here.
Thanks for letting me hang out with y'all. I'm excited too.
Thank you so much, Greg, for joining us.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to take over Roger's duties? I'm not really an I'm an ex officio member, so I can't really shut the meeting down, but Pam or Erwin?
Oh, I think I move that we adjourn today's meeting. We're looking for a second.
I'll second.
And I think, you know, this Pam interjecting, I think, you know, are we all in agreement? Are we all in agreement that our next meeting will be in September?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so because we do have, you know, in our plan that we can have. I'm having trouble hearing, but having a second meeting, we will work towards a September meeting. And I think, you know, what we talked about here is that we're going to start working on an agenda for a joint meeting at some point with the board and, you know, with you, Greg, and come up with ideas, you know, of building out what we have done, what we feel our goal should be for the future. So I think I propose we do that for our September meeting.
I think that's a great idea. And I'm sure that will come up in our strategic planning session later this month, trying to get a date on the calendar for moving forward.
I would ask the committee, whoever's going to put together those half a dozen points to be shared with the village board, if I could get those within the next 7 to 10 days, because we're looking at this meeting in the not too distant future.
We can make
that. You know, I'll together with Roger and we'll work on, and you Erwin too, and we can work on a 6 or 7 bullet points that are part of what we would like to see as our plan.
Okay.
Just because we got a nurse here doesn't mean you have to use her.
I think we have an open motion.
Yeah, I think we have a motion to adjourn in a second. So unless there's something else, the meeting will be adjourned until September.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.
Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day.